Inside Dry Dock 12 at Newport News Shipbuilding, the USS John F. Kennedy sat motionless on concrete keel blocks, her weight pressing downward with the force of nearly 100,000 tons. Every system above the waterline was incomplete. Every system below it was about to be tested all at once. When the order was given to open the flood valves, there would be no pause, no rollback, and no margin for error. More than 100 million gallons of water would begin moving into the dock, rising inch by inch around a warship that had never floated under its own buoyancy. If the flooding rate was uneven, if the hull shifted, or if the keel blocks failed to release cleanly, the United States Navy would be facing one of the most expensive and public construction failures in its history. This was not a ceremonial launch. It was a controlled risk. If you value clear, disciplined breakdowns of how the U.S. Navy builds and deploys its most critical warships, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Navy Recon documents what happens after the decisions are made and why they matter. What happened inside that dry dock in October 2019 would determine whether years of engineering, testing, and discipline had produced a warship or exposed a critical vulnerability in the future of U.S. carrier construction. Today, we're breaking down how the U.S. Navy launches an aircraft carrier, why this moment matters far beyond the shipyard, and what it reveals about how American naval power is built before it ever goes to sea. Graving docks are huge concrete buildings that are at the center of this process. These aren't normal places where buildings are built. The USS John F. Kennedy was built in Dry Dock 12, which is 2,000 feet long and 250 feet broad. This area is big enough to fit almost 500 school buses parked end to end. These keel blocks are amazing pieces of engineering on their own. They are made of concrete and have wooden caps on top. They hold up the whole weight of the carrier while it is being built. The USS John F. Kennedy, which weighed as much as 800 fully laden Boeing 747s, sat on these blocks for 4 years as thousands of talented craftsmen brought her to life. More than 3,200 shipbuilders and 2,000 suppliers from all throughout the country helped build Kennedy. This is the best example of American craftsmanship, from the steel craftsmen who sculpted her hull to the electronics experts who set up her radar systems. The flood was managed. October 29th, 2019 was a momentous day for the Navy and for everyone who believes that the United States has the best Navy in the world. On this cool fall morning, shipyard workers got ready to see something amazing. The flooding process is a meticulously planned ballet of engineering that takes place over a few days. To make sure that both the ship and the workers are safe, every step is watched, measured, and supervised. The first step is to fill the dock with water to a height of about 10 feet, which is just enough to reach the keel blocks. At this point, engineers run important tests to make sure everything is running flawlessly. The water doesn't just flow in any old way. It's routed through certain channels and measured down to the inch. Something spectacular happens when the water level goes up. This huge steel structure, which has been still for years, starts to feel the subtle pull of buoyancy. Kennedy completed this goal 3 months ahead of schedule, which makes it even more astounding. This says a lot about how dedicated and skilled American shipbuilders are as they work hard to make our country's defenses stronger. When the dock is full with more than 100 million gallons of water, the Kennedy floats for the first time. The huge carrier is no longer held up by its concrete supports and floats freely in the dry dock. The moment of truth. The change from a supported structure to a floating vessel is one of the most important steps in building a carrier. Once the Kennedy is completely afloat, it must be gently moved to the dry dock's west end, where it will undergo more tests before being officially christened. Caroline Kennedy broke a champagne bottle against the ship's bow on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7, 2019, as part of a long-standing tradition. This wasn't just a ceremony. Caroline Kennedy was doing the same thing she did 52 years ago when the first USS John F. Kennedy was named. The real adventure starts after the christening. The Kennedy leaves the pier and heads down the James River. This is the start of her path to becoming a fully functional protector of American interests. but she is not ready for battle yet. There are still months of more outfitting, testing, and training for the crew ahead. This technique shows how much patience and accuracy it takes to build these floating fortresses. Revolutionary technology. The launch process is remarkable, but what really sets current Ford-class carriers apart is their revolutionary technology. Since nuclear power was first used, these ships have been the biggest step forward in carrier architecture. The Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, or EMALS, is the most important part of this technological revolution. The numbers speak for themselves. Ford-class carriers can do 25% more sorties than their predecessors and use 25% fewer crew members. This efficiency immediately leads to better fighting performance and lower costs for taxpayers. But this new technology hasn't been without problems. Early tests showed that the system wasn't very reliable because it only worked for 600 cycles before failing, instead of the 4,000 that were expected. But this is exactly why we do a lot of testing, to find and correct flaws before our sailors have to use these technologies in battle. The Navy's dedication to getting this right shows how professional our force is. Instead of rushing broken systems into use, they keep testing and improving them until they match the high standards our troops demand. New reports reveal that things are moving very quickly. The USS Gerald R. Ford has successfully launched and recovered more than 22,900 aircraft. This shows that American engineering and dedication can conquer any problem. People are dedicated to the technology. The human aspect that makes every technological wonder conceivable is what makes it all. The people that build these carriers are the best craftsmen and women in the United States. Think about how much these workers do. Each carrier's construction involves more than 3,200 shipbuilders and 2,000 suppliers from all around the country. This network includes towns from coast to coast, all of which help protect our country. The Kennedy had some problems. Therefore, it is now projected to arrive in March 2027, instead of the original deadline of 2025. These delays are usually because the Navy wants to do a great job, not because of issues with the construction. Longer deadlines are caused by problems in the supply chain, a lack of workers, and the difficulty of using what was learned from the first Ford-ass carrier. But these problems also show that the Navy won't cut corners on quality. You can see the dedication in the details. When workers found methods to make Kennedy's construction better by using what they learned from Gerald R. Ford, they didn't hesitate to make improvements, even if it meant the work would take longer. The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group was sent to the Eastern Mediterranean within hours of the Hamas attack on Israel, which made things worse. This ability to respond quickly only exists because of the huge amount of money that has to be spent on building, launching, and maintaining these ships. The effect of the deterrent can't be overestimated. One Ford-class carrier has more firepower than several whole national air armies. These ships can send power hundreds of miles inland while staying safely in international waters. They can carry up to 90 planes, including F-35 Sea Lightning II stealth fighters. But carriers don't work by themselves. Each one has a strike group that includes cruisers, destroyers, and submarines. This skill is recognized by international partners. The French Navy has hired American companies to make new and innovative arresting gear systems for their next-generation carrier. This shows that they recognize that American technology is better in this important field. The Navy's current objective is to keep an 11-carrier fleet so that there are always several carriers ready to sail, while others are being repaired or trained. No other military system can equal the flexibility and capability of carriers, the future of the U.S. Navy. The carrier construction program is a sign of America's long-term commitment to keeping its Navy strong. This program will last well into the 2050s and beyond because there are plans for 10 Ford-class carriers in all. The USS Enterprise, CVN-80, and USS Doris Miller, CVN-81, are already being built, using what they learned from both Gerald R. Ford and John F. Kennedy. Each new carrier gets better construction methods, newer technology, and better ways of doing things. These carriers are made with the possibility of expansion in mind, which is probably the most important thing. They are only using half of their electrical generation capacity right now, so there is a lot of space for new technologies in the future. Ford-class carriers can change and adapt to new technology, whether it is directed energy weapons, sophisticated radar systems, or something we haven't thought of yet. It is very important that CBN-81 be called USS Doris Miller. From the initial moment when 100 million gallons of water flood into the dry dock to the day these floating fortresses are dispatched out throughout the world, the process of launching aircraft carriers shows American creativity, skill, and dedication to freedom at its best. These ships have more than just planes and guns. They carry the hopes and prayers of a thankful country. Every time one of these magnificent vessels slides into the water, it sends a clear message to the world. The United States will always fight for freedom and help our allies, no matter where they are. We should be very thankful and respectful of the men and women that build, launch, and run these carriers. Their dedication makes sure that the U.S. Navy is still the best and most recognized in the world. When you see a video of an aircraft carrier at sea again, think of the amazing trip that got her there. From the first cut of steel until that glorious moment when she first touched water, ready to serve our country with pride and honor. If you want continued analysis of how the U.S. Navy makes those decisions and how they play out in real-world operations, like the video and subscribe to Navy Recon. We cover what happens after the plans are approved and before the ships ever reach the fight. Until next time, maintain discipline. Control the margin.